Right, let's get straight into it. Your absolute sharpest read on a situation. Well, it just might be your blind fault. And that's exactly where this explainer of Seeing Systems kicks off. Now, Seeing Systems by Barry Oshry, it isn't just some textbook about group dynamics. Not at all. It's more like a mirror for the roles we play. It exposes exactly why incredibly smart people tend to act, well, a whole lot smaller when they're put under pressure. It's asking you to totally distrust that nice, clean story you tell yourself. And here in our Up Go Wise Masterclass series, this is absolutely foundational for the practice of self-mastery. Because think about it, the self you're trying to master, it's never just floating in a vacuum. It is placed, it is pressured, and it is constantly tempted to look at that pressure and confidently call it the truth.
So here's a real challenge to your intellect. Try to name the room before you name the person. Seriously, name the pool of the environment before you jump to naming a character flaw. This work by Oshry, it's asking for a very precise clinical cut. It demands that we actually see the water, rather than just staring at the swimmer. It asks for real courage, but without all the dramatic theater of assigning blame. We're looking for judgment, sure, but with our eyes wide open.
Reality slap. Overcoming system blindness is absolutely crucial here. You look at a chaotic situation and you call your analysis precision. But the reality is, you just cut the system into enemies, and your nervous system rewards that blame as relief. Barry Oshry wrote Seeing Systems as a direct cure for that exact blindness. He doesn't start by looking at human motive, he starts by looking at place.
Let's look at how this builds, because there are two very different ways to see this. The old paradigm says that conflict starts inside bad people. But the truth is, roles just squeeze good people into making really bad moves. That old assumption tells you that behavior reveals character. But Seeing Systems argues that behavior actually just reveals position.
And that collapse in perspective, it really matters, because a proud reader of a situation can quickly become a cruel one. You think you're seeing more, but the heat rises in your face, your chest gets tight, your jaw locks. Moral speed just completely takes over. Your mind desperately craves a single villain simply because it lowers the cost of thinking. So your attention narrows to one.
Offender. The entire system just vanishes, and now all your intelligence is just serving the trance. It's filing away evidence, it's editing out any grace, and it confidently calls that justice.
And this right here, this is the very real pain of self-sabotage. But it's not the loud, messy kind. No, it's the clean kind. It's self-sabotage wearing polished shoes. You're literally using your own insight as a blade to cut any real feedback away from its context. You can sit there quoting high principles while secretly just protecting your own status. Sure, you win the argument, but you completely lose the map.
So, the crucial shift in perspective is this. One paradigm treats roles as if they're just neat little job titles on a chart, but the other treats roles as actual visceral forces moving right through our bodies. And here is the biological anchor for exactly how that feels. Picture an immune cell at a swollen joint. It was made to protect, but it starts reading danger in totally healthy tissue. It attacks with absolute, full loyalty. The tissue isn't actually an enemy at all. The signal field is just confused. And the tragic part? The more faithful that cell becomes, the more harm it spreads. That is what system blindness looks like inside a self. You can be deeply devoted and utterly destructive at the exact same time. You can be perfectly loyal to completely the wrong frame.
Now, false belief tells us that self-sabotage is just some private defect. Oshry makes it much more dangerous. Self-sabotage can actually be perfect role obedience. Just look at the organizational positions. The top, burdened by heavy complexity, over-controls because distance feels too risky. The bottom is completely crushed by neglect. They withdraw feeling totally unseen. The middle is torn to pieces by both sides. They just absorb pain until resentment tastes entirely reasonable. And the customer, unseen by the system itself, attacks because their patience feels completely erased. Every single position breeds its own private trance. And every trance builds its own unique moral justification.
So we have to stop and ask a much harder question. What would this specific role make any sane person do? What exactly am I labeling as a personality flaw? Just because I happen to dislike the structural pattern? The refinement here requires real humility. You have to separate the person from the pressure.
And then you have to do something even harder. Separate yourself from your absolute favorite verdict. Look, this strategic upgrade isn't about excusing harm. We aren't trying to soften what's real or bless behavior that's cruel. Not at all. It's about pausing to see the condition that's creating the reflex before you lock in a self-serving judgment. Because without that pause, every single correction just stays entirely personal. You have to separate yourself from your favorite
verdict. Because that pause, it isn't weakness,
It is literal freedom entering the body. Because that confused immune cell we talked about doesn't need more zeal. It needs a truer signal.
Try applying this the next time you're in a really tense system. But don't start with your noblest, most righteous view. Start with your role's hunger. Seriously, ask yourself, what does my role actually hunger for right now? Does it crave control? Does it desperately want relief? Is it starving for credit or just basic visibility? You have to shatter that spell of instant innocence. Asking yourself this doesn't make you passive. It actually makes you way less possessed by the situation.
Because your absolute sharpest reading of a room can still be totally blind, especially when it flatters your own personal wound. You see, a wound absolutely loves a system with one clear villain. It can breathe there. It can rule there. But the cost of that is incredibly high. You just keep choosing your reactions from a narrow, defensive body. You might call it wisdom, but really, it is simply fear wearing glasses.
So we clearly need a cognitive upgrade. And this is exactly where Seeing Systems introduces the concept of system sight. It's the practice of seeing behavior as a combination of role plus pressure plus choice. It moves us entirely away from this endless culprit hunting and moves us toward actual strategic participation. Because productive partnership, it requires way more than just basic goodwill. Harmony doesn't magically appear just from having better intentions. We have to absolutely refuse to make emotional warmth through the heavy lifting of real system architecture.
So here's the precise, immediate practice for you. Before you make your next hard judgment, you need to map out 3 distinct forces. Number 1, map your own role, pressure, and fear. Number 2, map their role, pressure, and fear. And number 3, map out the entire system's hidden demand. Actually write those answers down before your next difficult conversation. Now your nervous system is going to resist this. It's going to scream for that old clean verdict. Give it a map instead.
Now, you might still feel a lot of anger, and hey, that's completely okay. Anger can absolutely guard the border, but it cannot draw the whole map. It's a highly valid signal, and it must be heard, for sure. But you have to insist that it be demoted to just one signal among several. This whole process, it's the pursuit of real intellectual refinement and much cleaner thought. A kind of thought that is actually strong enough to hold both force and mercy. Because the truth is, your role often starts speaking way before your conscience does. And that doesn't make you a false person, it just makes you a placed person. So you have to ask yourself, where have you mistaken structural pressure for absolute truth? Where have you actively weaponized your own insight just to avoid the hard work of partnership?
Sit with that. No witness needed. Let the room return. Find the role, find the pressure, find the whole. See the system. Choose cleanly. Continue the internal transformation at upgowise.com.